And I think it's how we started, actually. A lot of ABC was like, like what are these founder-driven companies, deciding things out of the ether outside of academia? But it just became the case that like academia can take risks that startups can't. Like target discovery is one that we always argue about.
Oh,
like,
I know,
wonderful, right? But it's just impossible. We just can't think of a historical precedent for a target discovery company that's worked. And so
it's the chicken and the egg, and in some stances, it's like, how many generations of eggs are we before the chicken?
Yeah, I think a big reason that like manufacturing is so exciting, and the overused example we have is AWS, is that in the 90s, right, you had to buy servers to start a tech company or web company, right? And with the notion of cloud computing, then it just took a couple $1 million and a Ruby on Rails hacker with a small team to build out these products, and got to focus on product market fit iteration as opposed to like building out all of this infrastructure. And I agree with your vision. I don't know if I agree with the time frame. And I think the reason we're so focused on manufacturing and infrastructure is if you are able to unbundle the stack of biotech discovery, you enable a cheaper, faster biotech that can be a lot of people with smart ideas. And there's a notion of that with the virtual biotech, right? But in the wild biotechs, let's wild tech. I just think it's been very hard to see really great ones. We've invested in a couple, but just jaw-dropping innovation in that tech target fits really hard without academic research.
Yeah.
Well, the interesting part of the dynamic is, I think until relatively recently, it would be basically unheard of for a top academic to move into industry, right? And so, in the PhD program that Francisco and I did, on the wall of our main conference room, we have photos from throughout the years, and you can almost trace through, like 5-year period by 5-year period, the proportion of people who went into academia versus industry, and you can see that shift toward the latter. And it's not limited to people who are newly graduating, right? I mean, of course, there's all sorts of examples of prominent academics. People like Daphne Kohler running a startup, Aviv Regev moving to pharma, Jeff Hinton, moving into big tech largely. And I think, frankly, it's a fascinating transition where industry now has almost caught up. I'd say not in terms of the risk-taking part that Francisco was talking about, but in terms of how innovative the methods that are being applied are, right? And I think, part of this is democratization of capability, as Francisco keeps hinting at. There's just so much more that you can do now in industry than was possible before, where, I agree about the comments about, wild tech, as it were. But I do think there continues to be really compelling opportunities, not just from, younger people emerging out of academia, but even, very senior and seasoned and accomplished people moving out of academia to really propel things forward in an industry setting where, it wouldn't have been possible for them to do that before. Or I guess a better framing is they wouldn't have wanted to, because they wouldn't have felt like they were truly pushing the envelope in the same way that they could staying in academia. And I think that's become less and less true. I think at this point, there's just as much exciting transformational technology development happening in industry and in startups. And, it's easy to have mixed feelings about, people leaving academia to move into industry. But, the good thing, of course, is when it leads to more and better and quicker and more effective impact on patient care, I tend to see that element at least as a good thing.